The illusion. Look up at the Manhattan skyline. Read the names on the glass. Big banks, global tech giants, international law firms lighting the night sky from 100 floors up. Here is something almost nobody outside the real estate industry understands. None of them own the building. They are renting. The names on the glass are decoration. The actual owners of this island are 10 families. Most of them you have never heard of. One of them divided a 500 building empire by literally flipping coins. Another sat on a $4 billion fortune while her brother was on trial for murder. These are the 10 bloodlines that secretly own Manhattan, counting down from 10 to 1, saving the wildest empire for last. The framing. Before we start, you need to understand the trick. New York City just assessed itself at $1.579 trillion. A massive percentage of those parcels never trade on the open market. They sit inside private family portfolios, compounding since before the Great Depression. They survive every crash because of one weapon, the ground lease. A family owns the dirt. They lease that dirt to a developer for 99 years. The developer takes on all the construction debt and all the risk. The family just collects rent. And at the end of 99 years, the tower itself reverts to the family for free. They get a skyscraper as a birthday present. That is the game. Now let us meet the players. Number 10, the steady hand. First on the list is the family Wall Street hates the most because they refuse to play Wall Street's game. In 1928, a builder named Jack Resnick started buying tenement buildings in the Bronx. Today, his grandsons run roughly 5 million square feet of premium Manhattan office and retail space. That includes the building at 315 Hudson Street, where one tenant signed a 279,000 square foot lease for a $1 billion campus. That tenant was the search engine you probably use today. Here is the contrarian move. While every other developer loaded up on cheap debt, the Resnicks used conservative loan to value ratios and refused to sell. When credit crunches came and over-leveraged competitors got margin called into oblivion, the Resnicks just kept collecting rent. Their philosophy, in 9 words from the current president: we have always operated in a very conservative fashion. Number 9, the conversion artists. Now we go to a family that built its modern empire by buying ghosts. In the financial district sits a 1,000-foot Art Deco skyscraper from 1932, 67 stories. After the 2008 crash, it was an abandoned shell, the former headquarters of a collapsed insurance giant. The Rose family poured $600 million into it and converted it into 612 luxury apartments plus a 165-key hotel. Then in 2024, in the middle of the worst commercial credit environment in a generation, they refinanced it for $395 million. The other families on this list got rich playing financial engineer. The Roses got rich playing architect. While others tear down the past, they rebuilt it. Number 8, the limestone visionaries. 2 brothers. One assumption the entire industry had wrong, roughly $2 billion in proof. In the 2000s, the entire luxury condo market was convinced the future was glass. Cold modern boxes everywhere. The Zeckendorf brothers built a fortress of Indiana limestone overlooking Central Park in a deliberately old school classical style. The industry mocked it during construction. Then the building sold out for around $2 billion. A single penthouse went for $88 million. The press nicknamed it the limestone Jesus because it resurrected the idea that traditional architecture could still command a premium. And when Albany politicians threatened a tax on wealthy out-of-town condo buyers, William Zeckendorf personally drove to the state capitol and killed the bill. These guys do not write angry op-eds. They show up in person. Number 7, the Plaza Patriots. Born poor in Brooklyn in 1915, ended up owning around 9 million square feet of the sky. The 3 Fisher brothers built one of the most formidable commercial empires in New York, today worth around $8.5 billion. But here is the move that defines this family. When the Navy decommissioned the aircraft carrier Intrepid, a World War II veteran with 11 battle stars, the scrapyard was lined up to cut her up. Zachary Fisher bought the ship instead. He parked her on the Hudson River and turned her into a museum where about 1 million people a year now walk her flight deck. While the rest of the billionaire class collects yachts, this family collected a warship and turned it into a public gift. Number 6, the landmark corporatists. Most landlords make their money charging rent. The next family discovered they could make a fortune charging tourists to look out a window. The crown jewel of the Malkin Empire is the most photographed skyscraper in the world, 2.7 million square feet of 1931 Art Deco, 102 stories. The Empire State Building. Here's the genius of the operation. In the first quarter of 2026 alone, just 3 months, the observation deck on top generated $10.6 million in pure net operating income. Pre-pandemic, it was generating over $60 million in 9 months, almost matching the entire rental income of the office floors below it. The same square footage is operating as 2 completely different businesses. 1 floor down, it is an office. 1 floor up, it is a tourist attraction. They figured out you can stack a theme park on top of a corporate landlord and the math triples. Number 5. The Wired Pioneers. Halfway through the list, and this is where the empires get really big. The Rudin family commands 10 million square feet of commercial space across 17 office towers, plus over 2,000 luxury apartment units. But the more interesting story is what they did at 55 Broad Street in the 1990s. New York at the time had no real tech scene. The Rudins quietly hardwired this one financial district building with high-speed fiber optics and marketed it as the first wired skyscraper. Startups poured in. The neighborhood got nicknamed Silicon Alley. The Rudins did not just rent to the tech boom, they accidentally midwifed it. Then in 2023, they sold the same building for $172.5 million to be converted into apartments, but they kept an equity stake in the conversion. They cashed out and stayed in the deal at the same time. Number 4. The Master Planners. The fourth family does not bother fighting for slivers of Manhattan dirt. They build their own cities. The Lefrak portfolio is more than 400 buildings totaling over 40 million square feet across New York, New Jersey, South Florida, and the West Coast. The master move is across the river in Jersey City, a community called Newport, the largest mixed-use neighborhood in the entire Northeast. They literally built a private city from scratch on abandoned rail yards. And they do not just rely on real estate. They run their own private equity fund, their own hedge fund, their own energy company. The ultimate luxury in real estate is not the penthouse view, it is owing $0 to Wall Street. Number 3. The Global Titans. Top 3. The family with the most spectacular disaster and the most spectacular comeback in modern New York real estate. In the year 2000, Tishman Speyer bought Rockefeller Center, all 19 buildings, for around $1.9 billion. 5 years later, they paid $1.72 billion for the MetLife building on top of Grand Central Terminal. Then in 2006, at the absolute peak of the market, they did something insane. They paid $5.4 billion for Stuyvesant Town, 11,200 apartment units on the east side. The plan was to deregulate the rent-stabilized units and pump up the yields. The plan failed. Tenants sued. The math collapsed. By 2010, Tishman Speyer executed the largest commercial real estate default in United States history. And then somehow, they remained the kings of Manhattan. Within a few years, they were chairing the most powerful real estate boards in the city. The lesson is brutal. In this league, executing the biggest default in American history is not the end of your career. It is just a Tuesday. Number 2. The Invisible Monopoly. Number 2 is the family you have never heard of, running the most valuable shadow empire on the island. In the 1950s, a man named Saul Goldman started buying foreclosed buildings at bargain prices with his partner Alexander DiLorenzo. When DiLorenzo died in 1975, the two camps divided their 500 building portfolio by, and I am not making this up, a literal series of coin flips. Saul won most of the toss-ups and became the largest private landlord in New York. Today, the empire operates under the name Soleil Management, run quietly by Sol's youngest daughter, Jane Goldman. They own roughly 400 New York properties. The dirt under the Olympic Tower, the dirt under the Cartier Mansion, the ground lease under Saks Fifth Avenue, a 17% equity stake in the World Trade Center. The portfolio is now estimated at around $6 billion. And here is the part you really need to hear. The Goldmans are the undisputed masters of the ground lease. They sign 99-year contracts. The developer pays rent the entire time. When the lease ends, the 80-story skyscraper standing on top of the dirt becomes the property of the Goldman family for free. Imagine inheriting a Manhattan skyscraper just because your grandmother held the paper long enough. The wildest part is the silence. Jane Goldman almost never speaks to the press. The ultimate Manhattan flex is not being famous. It is being invisible, while every other landlord in the city pays you rent for the dirt under their building. Number 1. The Dynasty of Drama and Steel. And we have arrived. The number 1 family, the dynasty of skyscrapers, sustainability, and one of the darkest true crime stories in American business history. In 1902, a tailor named Joseph Durst arrived in America from a small town in what is now Poland. He had exactly $3 in his pocket. By 1915, he had saved enough to buy his first building. 110 years later, his descendants owned 16 million square feet of Manhattan office space, plus 3,400 apartments across another 3 million square feet. The family fortune was last estimated at $8.1 billion. Their crown is One World Trade Center, the 104-story tower that replaced the Twin Towers, the tallest leasable office space in the entire Western Hemisphere. Now here is where the story turns. Douglas Durst, the head of the family, had an older brother named Robert. In 1982, Robert's first wife disappeared without a trace and was never found. In 2000, his closest confidant was murdered execution style in Los Angeles, just as police were reopening the original missing person case. In 2003, he was arrested in Texas for killing his neighbor, but was acquitted. Then in 2015, Robert sat down for an HBO documentary, walked into a bathroom, forgot he was still wearing a microphone, and whispered 6 words. Killed them all, of course. He was arrested, convicted in 2021, sentenced to life without parole. He died in custody in 2022. Douglas Durst, running one of the most powerful empires in New York, while this nightmare unfolded in public, issued one statement when his brother finally died. We hope his death brings some closure to those he hurt. Steel skyscrapers on one side of the family, pure darkness on the other, and the empire kept rising the whole time. The reframe. Look back up at the skyline, read the names on the glass one more time. The big banks, the tech logos, the law firms, none of it is theirs. They are renting space on the Resnick's conservative balance sheet, on the Rose's revived skyscrapers, on the Zeckendorf's limestone fortresses, on the Fisher's Park Avenue holdings, on the Malkin's Empire State, on the Rudin's fiber optic legacy, on the Leifrak's private cities, on the Speier's trophy assets, on the Goldman's invisible ground leases, on the Durst's 16 million square feet of glass. A bank thinks in quarterly earnings reports. These dynasties think in 99-year lease reversions. Wall Street built the economy. These 10 families own the island it sits on. If you made it all the way to number 1, the next deep dive is already loaded up. Same chair, same time. See you there.